You guys tell us when you're ready, media people. Okay, you ready? Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. We have an awesome panelist here. We'll introduce them a little bit later, but we have Taylor, Devin, CJ, and Tess here with us. We're going to go ahead and start with the Entrepreneurship Institute. They are combining with the MFPA and the PFP. So they're going to talk a little bit about what services they provide, and then we'll go on to the Q&A.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna Hale. I am the director of the Entrepreneurship Institute. We are a free resource available to anyone who wants to start a business. We help you through the ideation process, business modeling, launching, growing, scaling, acquiring customers, retaining customers, and connecting you to additional resources in the community. We do have a couple extra workshops that I wanted to share with you so you guys can mark your calendars about. But just know that anytime you want to come in, we can schedule a one-on-one appointment for you and do some consulting and coaching to help move you in the right direction and kind of customize your process for the way that you're engaging with us. So a couple of quick announcements we've got coming up on April 5th is Photo Day. If you need a new headshot or you want to update your LinkedIn profile picture, we're doing free headshots April 5th, which I think is in 2 weeks, and we'll have lunch provided. It's from 12 to 2, so come network, get your photo, and hang out. Additionally, the next day, April 6th, from 4 to 5 p.m., we're having a workshop on how to launch your business. It's going to be facilitated by Camille Pendleton, who's the regional director of the Small Business Development Center across the street. She's going to talk about all the legal entity considerations and other implications that you're going to need to be aware of when you're getting your business started. And lastly, we have a program called Seed for Startups, which is an opportunity for you to get a little bit of funding for you to start your business and take care of some of those early stage startup expenses. So the application to apply for up to $2,500 in cash for your business is next Friday, March 24th. All the information is available on these flyers, which you can pick up just at that front desk here. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My name's Brianna Hale, and my email address is bhale, H-A-L-E, @uvu.edu. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, we'll go ahead and jump into our Q&A. We're going to start with the panelists. Just tell a little bit about yourself, what you do. You throw in a little personal if you want to.
All right. So I'm Taylor Westergard. I am a financial coach. I started my financial coaching business a little less than 2 years ago, I believe. And so I do budgeting, debt management, kind of the behavioral side of personal finance. I live in Utah, been here my whole life. That's it.
Awesome. I know Taylor. We go to lunch sometimes and hang out. It's fun to have people you connect with in the industry, but my name's Devin Frampton. I am an owner of the RIA firm, Guerrilla Advisors. It's me and a partner. We opened about 2 years ago. Graduated from UVU, so love to be back as an alumni. It's always fun, and live in Utah, work out of Utah, and enjoy the mountains a lot. So you guys live in a lucky state.
I'm CJ Harrison, born and raised here in the Promised Land as well. I currently reside in Mesa, Arizona. I've got an office in Mesa, and then we have an office up in Gig Harbor, Washington, just south of Seattle. That's myself. I've got 2 partners. There's 10 of us at the firm. We manage just over $600 million in assets for individuals and families, first responders, and then private sector retirement plans as well. So.
Hi, Tess Downing. I own Complete View Financial. I launched late 2019, I believe, with my first official client in January of 2020. I graduated with my undergrad in personal financial planning at Texas Tech University and went on to get my MBA there as well. Guns up in the back. Spent about 10 years in the DC area at a boutique RIA firm, and then relocated back to the San Antonio, Texas area to launch my own firm.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll go ahead and open it up if anyone has any burning questions. We're not comfortable yet? Okay. I got a list of questions that were submitted. So let's go ahead and start with what's the first step when starting your own financial firm?
First step, wow. I don't know if there's a first step, but I think mine was finally figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. That sounds really big, but it was like, what is the end goal? What do I want my lifestyle to look like? I was tired of working a ton in the DC area, putting on a business suit every day, commuting in DC, and just working a lot with a lot of really high pressure clients. And I thought, there's got to be a better way. I love financial planning and I love what I do, but how could I make it fit my lifestyle and how I want to work and live? And so mine was figuring out what I wanted my lifestyle to look like and how can I marry my family in with working so that it's not these two separate entities.
Yeah, I think mechanically, the first step is just legally getting established, right? You need to work with a compliance team. We were briefly talking about this beforehand. If I were to break off and start a firm today by myself, I would utilize a platform called XYPN. I believe Tess utilizes it, and she can kind of speak to it, but there's an entire network and infrastructure that a platform like that can provide to help you with the registration. Getting into the nuts and bolts, right, depending upon what you do, whether you're managing assets or not, depends on whether you're going to be a state registered firm or a federally registered firm with the SEC or FINRA. So for example, we're registered with the SEC. I don't know specifics of the other firms, but that's who we are regulated by, and that's who our compliance goes through today. And we outsource that through a firm called Stark & Stark back in New Jersey, New York area. So that's step one, is you legally got to establish the firm. When we broke off and did our own thing, it's everything that you'd imagine starting a business is like. You got to come up with a name, which that is very stressful. It's like naming a child. You don't want to mess it up. And so you got to come up with a name, and you got to come up with a logo and a color scheme. And yeah, and then like domains, and you go like us and pick the world's longest domain, Decision Point Financial, because the shorter the domain, the more expensive it is. So, and then all of that fun stuff that comes with entrepreneurship is what you get to engage in and enjoy along the way. But the first step is deciding you want it, what you said, and then going down the path of a name and a website and legal entity and all of that stuff. So I loved that. I enjoyed that part when we broke away, but at the same time, I hated that part and I don't want to do it again. So, but it's the necessary evil of setting up your own firm.
Yeah, it's a big process. It took us about 6 months from when we were like, all right, let's open a firm, to when we were like, okay, we think we can accept a client now. Because there's just a lot to do. And when you don't have a resource, we didn't use XYPN. We weren't sure who to ask. So I would encourage, find a network that you can ask questions to. Someone that can kind of be a mentor, and XYPN can act as that. There's also people here at UVU that I'm sure would be willing to do so. And I'm sure any of us panelists would actually also be willing. But make sure you have a mentor. And then on top of that, kind of to reiterate what Tess had said, she wanted to figure out personally where she wanted to be. I call that vision. You know, a hitchhiker is like, I want to get to New York. They just start walking, and they hold their thumb out, and someone comes to help them and picks them up on their way. But their key step was that they had a vision to get there, and they started walking. And I think that that's kind of what entrepreneurship's kind of like. You have to rely on people, and people that are willing to help along the way. It's always a learning process, but if you have that vision, you can kind of start taking steps where you want to go.
So those are all perfect first steps. I'm going to add another first step. So we got 4 first steps here. But so knowing what you want to do with the firm, absolutely. Hitting a network, I think, is a really huge thing. And I think that looking into marketing and how you're going to market, I think it's a big one, because a lot of advisors want to start their firm, they want to get into it, but they've never had to do marketing. Or, I mean, some advisors actually did a lot of training in marketing, depending on the firm you were at before starting your own firm. There's a lot of advisors who never had to do marketing, and so it's a huge hurdle, and I would get really familiar with that and what it's going to take to market and do sales. with your firm before you decide to launch your own firm. Because the first few months in your own firm, you're not doing any financial planning, you're doing marketing and sales. And that can be really discouraging for people who weren't planning to do that when they got into this.
Okay, perfect. Again, if you guys have questions, please feel free to raise your hand. If you are online, go ahead and post in the chat and we'll get your question answered. So how did you choose your target audience?
So my target audience is just a little bit different from these guys. So I do budgeting and debt management. So my target audience are people who are living paycheck to paycheck and want to get out of that cycle. And so that's about as target as it gets for me. You can get real niche as far as like type of person, income level, and all that stuff. But that's honestly about it for me. I'm still working on ideal client there.
Yeah, I think as an entrepreneur, you are hungry to help people. And so kind of sticking to a target niche can be difficult times, but I've morphed into mine due to some marketing connections where I actually help a lot of divorcees. I work with a divorce consulting group and then I end up helping those people post-divorce kind of pick up where they left off. And so that's not where it originally started, but things kind of morph and mold, and it's a really fun space for me. I appreciate that those people say thank you. You know, there's some really high net worth people who expect maybe too much, or they aren't grateful for the work that you're doing, and that was hard for me at times. So I really appreciate working with these divorcees who say thank you. And that, for me, is like, I know it maybe sounds silly, but it's important for me to feel like I can keep going and keep helping people.
Yeah, so we were talking about this before as well. Early on, I think if you're setting up your own shop, like you literally need somebody to pay the bills. And so early on, you may not have a specific niche market. You may serve anyone that's going to give you a chance, especially if it's you by yourself setting up your own shop. Like that can be stressful, and you're willing to serve and work with anyone that's willing to pay you. And then as you are starting to pay the bills and getting revenue, then you can become more and more targeted based off of natural market segmentation. Right? You look around and all of a sudden you have 10 dentists and you choose that you're just going to specialize in dentists or divorcees. Ours is a little bit different, right? So we work with almost 1,400 first responders in the state of Washington. My dad was a firefighter. I grew up going to the fire station, riding down the fire pole. Like that's what I wanted. I wanted to be a professional baseball player or a firefighter. Both were epic fails, didn't work out. And but today I still get to be around it via the work that we do. So that's a piece of what we do. We also work with individuals and families. You know, shout out to mom. I don't come from money, right? So it is important for us to help as many people as we can. We don't have minimums at my firm. We are in the business of doing good and helping people. And so yeah, we have clients that have 100 million with us, but we also do a lot of work for the sub 100,000 work as well. We do a lot of pro bono work. We do a lot of divorce work, but that's a function of what our mission and vision is in terms of a firm. So I think it just depends what you want to do. You know, there's a recent grad, I don't know him super well, but Riley Hale, I think is his name. Is that his name?
Yeah.
This dude rolls out of bed, decides he's going to be the Utah Tech guy, and all of a sudden, like, dude's blowing up LinkedIn, he's crushing it, and you know, if I was in the area, I think I'd probably go talk to him if I had RSUs at Podium or one of the local tech companies. And he decided for himself that's what he wanted to do. And you know, I huge respect and credit to individuals that have identified that niche early on, but you don't have to. You can be true to yourself and serve whatever you want. And I'm a big believer that regardless of whatever niche you choose to select or not select, if you're the best, you're going to get paid. It's all about adding value and helping people and doing good. And if you do that really, really, really well, you're going to make plenty of money and have plenty of flexibility.
So my niche is couples transitioning into retirement. And so it's all about going from the accumulation phase, now going into the decumulation phase. And there's a ton of tax planning work. There's a lot of projections involved. There's a lot of hand-holding in terms of a lot of these people have been DIY investors before, and now they realize they've accumulated so much wealth, but now they don't know what to do with it, and they don't even know how to actually access that wealth and what kind of lifestyle can they have in retirement. So I do a lot of behavioral coaching around that, as well as tax planning and the retirement projections. The biggest moment, I guess, aha moment for me was I was reading the XYP and benchmarking studies, and it said firms that niche earlier on, their revenues by year 4 and 5 begin to double and quadruple versus firms that do not niche. So I'm a solopreneur. I don't have any intention on hiring other people. I don't want to create anything bigger than 40 or 50 ideal clients. I want to be location independent and do what I want, basically. And so the idea that I needed my 40 or 50 clients to be going through a similar life stage, so I have streamlined services, streamlined processes, my tech stack fits exactly those people. If I have a young account executive who has RSUs and is doing something very different than the retiree who's asking me about Social Security, I'm spending double the amount of time that I need to be. So how do I streamline my time and processes to really fit these 50 people as best I can? And then obviously the added revenue and growth of being the best you can of serving that particular niche was a no-brainer for me.
Okay, thanks. Questions yet? Okay. How do you begin to build your client base and start professional relationships?
A lot of work. Let's see. I located to San Antonio, Texas, and I didn't have any built-in network there. So I kind of had a lot of things going against me. But I did a lot of local analysis on the market there. When I started, there were 7 fee-only financial planning firms in the entire city. We have well over, I think, 2 million people living in that city, so that was weird. If you wanted a female financial planner with over 10 years experience, I'm it. It was like, so I thought, okay, there's an opportunity there. So I thought if I had a really good online presence, and I looked at all the other websites, and they had been updated maybe in the late 90s, and I thought, okay, so if I have a really interactive, nice-looking website, can make sure my social media is updated. And I hired all of this. I'm not coding a website, I'm not designing it, but I put a lot of money into the marketing platform. And now I have someone who manages all my social media, manages through ghostwriting, as well as providing content, some really good information to the end client. That's how I'm really getting the clients, as well as just having an amazing launch campaign, hiring that marketing consultant to get your name out there to say, hey, I'm here now and I'm taking business and I have this great experience. Really getting your name out there, I think, is important, and leveraging your networks.
Yeah, so I think every relationship matters. Everyone in this room, everyone that you go hang out with tonight, like, you never know where opportunities are going to come up, from who you network with to get help from running your business to clients. They all matter. Like, so for us, we take a very different approach, and we want to help as many people as we can. And so, you know, I told this story earlier in one of the classes I was teaching, but, you know, recently we had a firefighter and their family that we were working with. We did a really good job, added a ton of value to them. They referred us to somebody else, a neighbor going through a divorce, had no money, no assets. The answer was yes. We absolutely want to help you. We do a ton of pro bono work. That client then referred us to somebody else, a $750,000 account, who led to the parents, which was a $9 million account. And so we're serving an ultra high net worth family, a first responder, a divorce individual, and then a small business owner. And we're the solution to all three. We have different segments of the business. We don't all do the same thing, but the firm and the team itself are in a position to cater to those needs. So business development can be super hard for some. Others, it can come very naturally. Others are very good at what they do and building trust. But I would say if you go start your own firm and have a hard time, that's okay. Welcome to reality. That's life. Every firm out there is trying to figure out how to get more clients. Great example of a really good friend who went through the program with me. He went to an established firm, left that established firm to go start his own thing, and had a pretty humbling wake-up call. It took a year or 2 or 3, and he never got the traction that he wanted. And eventually made his way back to a more established firm and is crushing it. He's a partner at the firm, doing exactly what he was meant to be doing, and that was the path that was right for him. And so I would say there's a path that's right for everybody. You just got to figure out what that is and naturally find your, either do it yourself and crush it like Tess, or don't, right? There's other firms that can help on the business development side, but it's hard. It's hard, especially when you're 22, 23, 24, even 30, and you're asking somebody with $1 million or 2 or 10 to hand over their life savings and put you in charge of it. Like, that's a heavy burden. Like, I'm one of the most confident people on earth, but I remember literally one of my first big client meetings, a guy just sold his business, he has $10 million, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and I go in there with my partner Scott, and I realize, like, I am in way over my head. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Fortunately, my partner Scott did, and we closed the business, but like I said, it's easy to think that you're ready until you are in that scenario, so time and experience and patience and, you know, give yourself a break. It's tough to win business all the time.
So I didn't mention this at first. I graduated UVU in 2020, and my firm opened in 2020. So I actually was in Benjamin Cummings' class talking to him about starting my firm, and he was looking at me like, you are crazy. And frankly, I didn't know how crazy I was till probably about now. I'm like, yeah, that was maybe a little crazy. I didn't have like money to start a firm. So I couldn't go hire people to do social media. I would have to go into debt. And so I chose the route of what can I do as a side job that leads business into my main job at Guerrilla Advisors. And that's actually how this divorce consulting company began. I was approached about helping divorcees kind of start the next phases of their life after that divorce. And so all that income I received just from helping these people go, and I got paid by the consulting firm, then allowed me to say, hey, if you also need help with these assets that you acquired, I would be happy to do that because we have a good relationship now. And so if you are crazy like myself and you're really wanting to get started out the gate and you don't have funding or money and you're not willing to go into debt, I would suggest work something that ends up providing you clients. So if you're like, I want to be a tax guy, well, get your EA, become an enrolled agent, and do tax work. And then you'll get more clients for your actual advising career. So that was my strategy. I can't say it's been perfect, but it's been working. And I think it'll compound over time as that niche grows. So.
Awesome. Like CJ was saying, with the relationships that you have are the most important things when you're starting your business. Even if you don't have a network right now, you need to be creating one. It needs to be like top priority, not only just for referrals out, but referrals in too, because your clients are going to need other people and other professionals, and you're going to be the one that says like, hey, I know this situation. I know a guy. All of my clients come from networking and referrals. I don't really do any social media. I'm really trying to do social media, but I have a better time talking to people. It's way more fun than sitting on Instagram. So my clients come from financial advisors, actually, because I don't work with the same clients financial advisors do generally. Mortgage lenders, people who want to buy a house and kind of aren't ready to get into the house of their dream home, so they want to get some more savings, improve their credit and all that stuff. Mortgage lenders, estate attorneys, like all that stuff. I mean, these are where my clients are coming from, and it's me introducing myself to a stranger, saying, do you want to go get coffee? Do you want to jump on a Zoom call? Chatting with them, who they are, what they like to do, who their family is, and getting to know them as a person, and then seeing if there's a good business connection there.
Okay, thanks. We have a question from Josh online. How do you help potential clients see the value of what you offer and close business?
There's like 1 million people online watching this.
Cool. I'm not nervous. Okay, how do you see the value? I mean, one, show the value via social media, your blog, website. If you can like give value at the gate and understand like, hey, teach them things before they even walk into your door, teach them things before they even have a conversation with you, whether through your website or whatever it is. That's a great way to show value and then get them to see like what you are going to do for them and the results you're going to get for them. But Yeah, what would you like to add to that?
I actually had a conversation about 2 hours ago with a potential client who was going to be bringing over money, and I had received a text earlier the week, and they were like, maybe I'll just manage it myself. So I was like, well, let's set up a call. And after that call, I was able to describe to them the ways that we're adding value by making sure that it's being monitored, their account, and doing rebalances when appropriate. And they were very concerned about the current market right now because of how banks have been hammered by their bonds. And, you know, they were like, oh, man, I don't know if I want to watch all that. And I think that it just takes sometimes peeling back the curtain and letting them see, like, this is what I do day to day. And then just ask them straightforward, is that something you want to do? And if they're like, yeah, I don't think that's that hard, then don't spend your time with that person. At least for me, it was like, oh, I don't need to over commit to this individual if they want to do it themselves. I think living in Utah, a lot of people like to do things themselves here, which is fine. And I've wondered if other states are the same, but I've heard Utah is kind of crazy on that. But I've learned that that's okay to let them go do it themselves. Then the trick is keep sending them emails, because there will be a point in time where they realize they probably don't want to do it themselves. And so, you know, adding value where you stand and then asking for customer feedback and growing in value every day if you can. You know, it's not like a perfect scenario, but when people see what you do behind the curtain, they'll naturally be like, I don't want to do that myself. I'd rather someone else. So.
Yeah, so I think being able to communicate and articulate your value is critically important. Our firm, we don't sell anything. We don't sell insurance. We don't sell annuities. We don't sell mortgages. We don't get kickbacks from fund families. We're never selling any products, but we're absolutely every day selling ourselves. We're selling why we're better than the next folks and why, you know, they should trust us with their life savings. But I think the best thing you can do to sell yourself is just crush it with your current clients. We do zero advertising, zero social media, zero marketing. That's just not what we do. No one in our firm is paid to do business development at all. No one. We're not a kill and or eat what you kill, and we just don't operate that way. Everyone in our firm is paid to do their job really, really, really well. And if they do that, your greatest sales engine and your greatest advocate is your existing clients. You know, we put on $150 million in assets last year, all organic, like nothing. There's a saying on this dude on LinkedIn who's creating the sales engine for 401k plans, and I love his saying. He says, everything works, but nothing works well. And it's this idea that, like, if you look for the last 24 months where our clients came from, you know, 20% came from client referrals, 18% came from COIs or centers of influence, 6% came from this, and 18% came from that. We don't have one very clear-cut channel where clients are coming from, but we have a lot of avenues or channels of where they're coming from repeatedly year in and year out. And so I think the best thing you can do is when you get someone who is willing to trust you, do everything you can to never lose that trust. And they'll become your advocates, and they'll become the sales engine for you. So you don't need to do the convincing necessarily.
Maybe just one other small thought on that. No one really wakes up in the morning and says, I really want to reach out to a financial planner today. I would like to gather up all my financial information and have a detailed conversation about my budgeting and how my investments are growing. So there's a reason they reached out. So that's the whole point. You find what is their pain point? Why did they reach out to you? What on your website spoke to them? Is it that they have adult children that are overspending and they're worried about their legacy? Did they just have a parent die and their estate was a complete mess and they never want to put their children through that? They're nervous about the markets. It's about having that just conversation and getting to know them and figuring out what that pain point is and then showing them how you deliver value and a solution for that pain point. So it's really drilling down specific to that person.
Okay, thanks. Question from Benjamin online. How do you develop your investment philosophy and build client portfolios? You don't all have to answer. You can pass it around.
answer it. So I think the more information you gather, right, you're at some point in time, you're going to develop your own personal opinion about certain things, right? What I believe and what my firm thinks, that's just the way that we operate, right? There's a never-ending debate. Are you active? Are you passive? Are you pro real estate? Are you not? Do you do private equity? Do you not? Are you Bitcoin? Like, I mean, there's never-ending. There's always going to be something sexy and new that comes out, and you're going to have to decide what is it that you genuinely believe in, right? Our firm, we are a very structured, professionally managed methodology, right? We're using low-cost DFA, Vanguard, globally diversified portfolios, and I can, statistically argue why that's the best thing for my client. But you'll have to ultimately decide which camp you're in. Are you going to do active funds or are you not? And that's a never-ending debate. But for us, the portfolio management side is honestly very, very easy. I think if you're going to go off and start your own firm, I would take confidence knowing that that's probably the easiest thing you're going to do. Like, there are plenty of firms, there are plenty of professionally managed portfolios out there that you can access, super, super low cost. The issue is not the portfolios and the models themselves. The issue and the challenge is keeping people where they're supposed to be, keeping them in their seats and overcoming, both greed and fear, which is what we all possess, right? We're all greedy, we all want to make more money, but we all have that fear inside of us that doesn't want to lose the money either. And so that's where the real challenge comes from a portfolio management side. In my opinion, it's not necessarily the day-to-day, am I a stock picker or a market timer? It's, like I said, I statistically think it's impossible to time the market. I think concentrating in individual positions is a dangerous game. We say all the time, if it's sexy, we don't touch it. Like, we don't do Bitcoin, we're not market timers, we're not day traders, we're not forecasters. That's not what we're in the business of doing. When you're managing $600 million in people's assets, like, it's not about what I think or feel today about the market. It's about what's statistically going to give my clients the best chance to be successful over the next 1, 3, 5, 10, 20 plus years. So you guys want to add anything on the investment management side?
It was Benjamin, I believe, online. Find a good partner, or be that good partner that wants to do asset management. So, for example, it's me and a partner for Gorilla Advisors. I am specialized with the CFP on the financial planning side. He's going with his CFA on the portfolio management side. And so he loves and dives into that realm with our clients as they have questions. But I also think it's not for everybody. So, I think from what I've learned about the financial planners up here that you're questioning, none of us would call ourselves like major portfolio managers. So, Benjamin online, hopefully that helps guide you. But there are people that want that conversation. I'd be happy to have you talk with my business partner if you wanted like a really detailed overview of that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a compliance
Yes.
question?
Sure.
I think one hurdle that is perceived as scary to people thinking about starting their own is just dealing with SEC, FINRA, your state securities. Like, are there things that surprised you that were more difficult or more easy than you suspected? Like, just in dealing with regulation and compliance?
So real fast with financial coaching, if you really stick to the budgeting and don't do any investments and stay away from investments, you really don't need to register and there is no compliance. That is the downside of financial coaching and like that industry. There should be some kind of regulation and there might be someday, but so I can't speak on that.
I run my own compliance because it's just a two-man shop and I haven't made enough money yet to where I feel like I can really outsource that. And so I'm actually currently in a routine Utah examination. And to kind of answer that question, compliance isn't difficult, it's time consuming. These people don't want you to fail. It may sound like it as they're probing you with very direct, straightforward questions that make you think, do they think I'm lying? Like, they want my personal bank statements to see if I drew any money out of client accounts? But that's not them being rude, that's them just trying to do their homework. So compliance is more than anything time consuming than it is difficult. So I don't know if that helps answer that question, but anyone could do it. It's not very fun. I don't really like it, but it's just time consuming. So.
Yeah, so I think it's a function of complexity, what you're going to do for your clients. If you're taking custody of assets, you're going to expose yourself to an annual surprise audit. If you're not, it's pretty straightforward, right? So for our firm, we have 10 people. We have, a lot of assets in terms of different channels from the trust side and the institutional side. But for us, like, compliance is a non-issue. Like, it's very straightforward. We've been through an SEC audit. We have our annual amendment call. I just had it. Prepped all the stuff for the ADV. It takes 72 hours once a year for us based off of what we do, and it's non-issue. We use Stark & Stark. I'd mentioned we outsourced that. If you're using XYPN and you're early, I can't imagine there's much. That would not scare me if I were you. Like, if you're the good guy, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, compliance should not even faze you.
I kind of disagree. Strongly, actually. I think it's so important that you remain compliant that it's not something that you take on yourself. Always make sure you have an expert. My expert was a previous Texas auditor, so I passed the entire Texas audit with like a letter that said you literally have no deficiencies. That literally never happens. I think it's so important. It's my livelihood, it's my business, it's my reputation. We are dealing with, millions of dollars that we manage for clients, and I think taking compliance very seriously. All it takes is, something that was said online. It takes, a bad complaint from a client to ruin your business. So take it very seriously, and I think outsource it as much as you can. And there are a lot of complexities based on what type of business model you have and how you service them. And so it's something that I don't want to be sued. So I take it very seriously, and I think it is complex. And I've gone through several SEC, Texas state audits, and they require a lot of information. So you have to have your ducks in a row, and it's not something you can ignore. And I pay my consultants basically to hold my hand through that process, or I would never do it. Like, I literally pay her to make me do compliance. And so I just think it depends on your personality and your know-how, but your experience within that and what you've gone through from an audit perspective. Like I said, it's my business and my livelihood and my name, and I'm not willing to risk that.
Okay, thanks. Did you get debt or equity funding to start your firm? And if so, where did you get it?
I feel like I did not prepare well for, I quit my job. I knew I didn't want to do that. I had my second baby. We relocated back to Texas, and it took me a good year. I call it my sabbatical of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. And so my backup plan was my husband kept working, so I am not a good example of what to do. But from an XY Planning Network benchmarking perspective, they say you should have at least 3 years of living expenses and business expenses covered before you even think about launching your firm. And so I think that's a good benchmark to think through.
No, neither. Didn't take any funding, didn't go into debt. Like I said, my story is a little different. We had revenue and clients when we broke off, but yeah, for us, we did neither.
I touched on this earlier. I did not. I kept doing work on the side that I thought would funnel in to the company. So kind of a slow growth model.
Same, I did not. I did work, and I actually still do some side work along my coaching business. And I think with coaching, it's a really great model, a business to get into while you are working as a full-time financial advisor. It's like a good side hustle to gain knowledge of like the emotional side, the psychological side, the spending habits and behaviors while still getting your experience and credentials and doing full-blown financial planning. It's also a really amazing asset to add to your firm because there are clients that might not fit the model, but your firm could still help them when you have that experience of being able to help people with the budgeting and the small day-to-day stuff. So huge value add to your firm or something you could do in the future, but it's a really great like side hustle, I think, for people who are working full-time.
Perfect, thanks. Okay. How much research did you do on your competitors?
Lots of research. Lots and lots. I mean, I'm doing that research daily too. I mean, I kind of keep up with what financial coaches are doing and what like the best financial education is out there. I'm looking through, and not even just competitors, but like even financial advisors, like what is the best way to service? And that, I think that our competitors do that, is that they help us grow. And I think that's what's awesome about being in financial advice, is that they're not competitors, they're teammates. In a sense, because they do have ideas that you're not going to have, and you can really lean and grow on them, grow with them too.
Admittedly, I didn't do a ton of research. I had experiences at firms as I was at UVU doing some internships that led me to believe that I wanted to do a firm in this certain way. You know, kind of be able to work with clients more closely instead of have to work with the masses and plug them in and sell them life insurance. Those were the exposures I had, so that's why I wanted to do my own. But as far as the RIAs out there that are doing what I'm doing, I didn't actually have a lot of interaction with them before I started. I just had a vision and I kind of went for it. So probably not the best example, but that's kind of what I did.
Yeah, we don't really obsess too much over what our competitors are doing, and that's in part because what we do is very unique, at least where we're at geographically. I think the reason, the research that I've done on my competitors isn't through the lens of competitors, it's through the lens of just educating ourselves and staying up to par on terms of what is going on in the industry, right? If anyone has ever heard me talk here, I always tell you to go listen to the Kitsis podcast, and that's purely just for information. I'm not like trying to beat them. It's more so most people in the advisory world are in the business of helping each other, and will do anything to help another firm succeed. Most people up here, I think, are aligned in terms of what we're trying to help clients accomplish. So,
when I moved to San Antonio, I reached out to all the firms that I thought I want my firm to look like, and I offered to take them all to lunch. And so the principal, I think, on all but one, took me up on that. So I went to lunch with all of them and just picked their brain on the market, understanding client personalities, because I think they're different based on your location. Understanding opportunities as well. And just like you said, I think it's a community, and in this type of financial planning services, people want to help others. Because at the end of the day, we know we're serving clients in their best interest, and there's a lot of other people who are not. And so I think we all want to help clients land exactly where they should land. And like I said, all those principals took time out of their day and came and met with a nobody startup and was willing to take me up on that offer.
and I think what Tess did, I think, is something that everyone can take something from, right? Like, everyone here can call any of the firms in Utah County and try to go to lunch and just learn and pick their brains. I mentioned it earlier as well. There's a kid here in town, I guess not a kid, he's older than me, but a dude here in town named Casey Baugh. And the guy has no clue who I am, but I've got a massive man crush on him. The dude is crushing it. And that guy gives everything he can to helping everybody around him. And there's something to be said. Like, people are willing to spend time and help those around you. Like, if I was a young lady in the financial planning industry, I would literally look to individuals like Tess. I would literally Google Aspen Capital, Katie Dow in Boise, Idaho, and I would beg and plead to go hang out with her for a day. Like, there's firms out there that are willing to spend time and money to helping the next generation of advisors make an impact. You just have to get out of your comfort zone and take people up on it, right? We get calls at our office on a pretty regular basis from either students or individuals trying to break into the industry, and never once has anyone in the firm said, no, we don't have time to talk to you. So I think collectively, there are good people out there that want to help, and you just got to get out of your comfort zone and do what Tess did, which that's intimidating. Like, hey, I'm a competitor, I'm going to come in, and they're willing to help you.
This kind of goes along with this, the networking thing, but for the students that don't have any experience in finance, how do they break into the industry? Work
your guts out. Just learn, right? Like I said this earlier as well, like when I was in the program, like Kitsis podcast didn't exist. The only exposure I got was because Luke and Hiram and Jacob busted their butts to get professionals to come in and tell their stories. That was the only exposure I had. Hiram would literally load us up in his Honda Accord, and we'd drive with 6 of us up to Salt Lake to go to the local FBA meetings. Like you just have to expose yourself and be willing to learn more than the next person, right? If you're not in the program, which if you're not, you should be. If you're in the finance program and you think it's too late, great. We've got a master's program and you can go learn. If you don't want to do either, that's okay too. There are endless resources to learn and grow, and you just got to want it. You got to stay super hungry. Everything's changing. If you hate to learn, this is not the industry for you, because taxes are going to change, laws are going to change, the Secure Act 1.0, 2.0, I'm sure there's going to be 4 more variations of it coming down the line. So you just got to put the time in and learn and get better. I agree. She agrees.
Ditto.
She didn't disagree this time, that's a win.
I 100% agree, and I would also say maybe I'll share my experience a little just so you can maybe learn from it. I did an internship, then I was maybe arrogant in some regard that I was like, I could maybe start being an advisor at a firm. So I started to look for that and found someone out of Texas. They said I could open a branch here, but all my earnings was based on my own efforts. Well, this was 2018, so this is quite a while ago already, but I was still like 3 years left of college, 2 years left of college, and started to try to find my own clients. Well, I don't know if I would do it that way again. Even though I learned a ton, and frankly, it didn't work out with that firm. That's a whole story. It was really hard on my family to essentially forego money and earnings just so I could learn some hard life lessons. So I'm almost like, hey, maybe if you're going to jump in, and I think jumping in is the right call, jump in with someone who is willing to pay you for your time and effort because you're valuable. Don't just settle for someone who's convincing about maybe starting your own firm. It may be possible for you now, circumstances may change, but for me, I didn't have anyone lined up to be a good client. None of my family or friends have a lot of money. And so it wasn't like, oh, my father-in-law has $1 billion and I'm just going to manage like 10% of his money and be fine. It was like I had to work every day to try to find table scraps. And that was really, really hard, shaping. But I would find someone who's willing to give you the time, but also understands that your time is valuable. There's kind of a mix there.
There is not a shortage of opportunity in financial planning. There's varying degrees of how awesome the opportunity might seem or is. But it exists, and it's what you make of it. So if you're breaking into this industry, I do suggest talking to people, networking with other advisors, getting a job with them, or partnering with them, or if you really want to start your own firm, making sure you have a really good network of other advisors and mentors and people who you can really, really lean on if you're going to start your firm fresh without having like this awesome PFP degree and maybe some experience outside. But if getting some experience into a firm that can walk you through the ropes, learning how to interact with clients, put plans together, how to offer a really good client service model, there is just no shortage of opportunity out there. So.
Okay, thanks. Benjamin asks, how do you keep up on information needed to run your business? Communication skills, continuing education, planning, coaching techniques, tax code, etc.
Yeah, like CJ was saying, like you really got to be learning all the time, all the time. Like you need to be in the know. So CFP makes you take 30 hours of credit to keep up your CFP. That's an awesome way to like keep up with things. Like it does force you to have that accountability to stay in class and keep learning. But networking still, talking to other professionals that are learning this stuff. I mean, I just had a conversation with a financial advisor, like literally just yesterday, teaching him what I learned on the Secure 2.0 Act, because he's been studying so hard for CFP. He hasn't kept up with it, so I'm letting him know what the changes are. And that was huge for him because he had so many clients that he needed to reach out to, and he's going to train his team now. And so it's like talking to other professionals is how you're going to learn, as well as just keeping up to date. And like the Kits' stuff is amazing, and the podcasts, there's so much out there to stay up to date.
I would just say that information overload, right? There's a million things you can look at. you really have to prioritize your time and what matters most to you in the stage of life that you're in your business, right? What I focus on looks different than what one of my other partners focuses on, right? We kind of break that out. And kind of to the comment earlier by Devin, right? There are firms out there that will do everything to help prepare you to go start your own firm, right? One of our associates right now, Devin Miller, I'm not kidding, that kid could walk out our front door today and start his own firm. He traded over $900 million last year in total trades. He's in every planning meeting. He's in every meeting. He was in the compliance meeting with our attorney last week. And so there's firms out there, like, we don't have secrets. Like, we want our team to be so elevated and so experienced that they can handle anything we put in front of them. And if and when they decide to leave, like, that'll suck. But we owe it to them. Like, if you want to recruit super good talent, like, that's what it takes. You have to be willing to give them a platform that's going to take them to the next level. And so, right, if you want to go off on your own, Luke disagrees. He says you need 5, 6, 7 years. If you want to do what Riley Hale did, that's awesome. Like, kudos to you. Call me, and depending on what you're doing, we will send you clients that we can't take care of, like, all for it. But there are firms out there like ours who don't expect any business development. All we expect you to do is your job and just crush it and take care of the clients and learn and grow and contribute and have a voice. And if and when you're ready to go, like everyone in our firm, literally, I think Chad and Matt and anyone, they could walk off and start their own firms today. And that's a risk we bear when we give them the leash that we do, because we trust them, we love them, and trust them entirely. And they are so talented because of it. So if you don't think you're ready today to start your own firm, that's okay, right? You don't need to start it today. You can start it in a year or 3 or 5 or 10 when it's right for you, like Tess did. She didn't do it on day one, but she did it after having a few years of experience.
Okay. You ready for the next question? Okay. I've thought about starting my firm as a financial coaching practice rather than financial advising to try to make it easier to initially get clients and avoid all of the complex laws and regulations behind financial advising and investing. Once it's been built up to a certain level, I'd make the switch to convert it to a financial advising firm. Is this recommended, or is it easier just to bite the bullet and start with financial advising?
So I was actually talking to Alan Moore about this. He's head of XYPN. And he sees a lot of people starting at financial coaches and then turning into financial advisors. And he says the regulatory issues that happen there are very strong. It kind of sucks, actually. So he says there's normally a lot of more issues with compliance when you're trying to change from financial coaching to advising, especially if you're taking your same firm. And so, like, you would have to do a whole new rebrand, whole new firm, like, most of the time just with the way compliance is. That's Alan Moore's take. I haven't had to go through that. But I feel like he's a really good resource on that one. So as far as, if you really want to do financial coaching, do financial coaching. If you think that there's a chance you want to do advising, I say, and there's no harm in starting a financial coaching business first. Make sure you're getting the experience to do financial advising. Like I said, even doing it on the side while you're learning and doing financial advising. If the company lets you, sometimes there's compliance issues of being able to do your own coaching firm on the side of their company. You'll have to check with your firm on that. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong way. That's my thoughts there.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes, so last question. What has been the most fulfilling thing about your job?
The most fulfilling thing in my job is just getting people to start saving, thinking that never having savings before and being able to create those savings, start investing for the first time. That's really wildly thrilling.
Yeah, with me focusing on divorcees, I kind of touched on it. It's just the fact that I'm helping people in a very difficult situation all of a sudden feel hopeful about maybe being able to buy a house and feel like they have somewhat of a normal life again. And it's an emotional transition for them, but frankly, I love being a part of that and helping them feel like they've got someone to rely on, because it's a very big change for them. So very, very much emotionally rewarding on that end.
I'd say 2 things. I think one, being the solution to a person's problems is hugely rewarding, right? You are they're the rock in their life in some cases. And in very challenging life circumstances, whether it's death, divorce, volatility in the markets, whether they had been sitting on $1 million in cash and decided to put it to work for the first time in January of 2020, and they log in 3 months later and they're down 30%, like, that's heavy stuff. That's hard stuff. And the fact that you are the solution to their problem is very, very rewarding. And then on the second side of that, I think being a business owner, I'm a big believer in capitalism. It works. Being able to help elevate and lift people out of financial dependence to financial independence is hugely rewarding. I love the idea that we get to help create jobs and pay for kids' education and pay for the mortgage and like give raises and bonuses when they don't expect it. Like that's fun. Like that's why you want to own a business, is to do good, not only for your clients but for your team members as well.
The most fulfilling thing for me, I think, has been, as I alluded to at the beginning, is the fulfillment of the business goal of being able to be present with my children. I have 2 young daughters, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so being able to be present for them while getting to do what I love and not have to sacrifice either one has, I didn't know that was possible. And frankly, I called myself kind of a reluctant entrepreneur. It wasn't something I dreamed of doing. But actually going through it and knowing I can and build something successful and sustainable, hugely fulfilling.
Okay, thank you. Before we end, Ben, do you want to have a couple of minutes?
Are you going to close or
I can.
Okay. Well, this has been awesome. Such a great opportunity. So thank you to all of our panelists. Maybe we could give a round of applause to our panelists. And a great shout out to Sarah Moore for putting this together. Thank you. She focuses on placement. So let's give a round of applause for Sarah. She helps our graduate programs, our MBA and our MFPA with placement. And this was a great opportunity for those that are exploring this as a potential future career option. So thank you all. I know.
I would say we're hiring. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn if you're looking for work.
Here we go.
Love to have a conversation.
So right here, okay, we got CJ Harrison with a Decision Point, looking for new talent. So please reach out to him. Also want to give a shout out. This was sponsored by the Master of Financial Planning and Analytics program. So you heard recommendations here about continuing education, advancing your knowledge. We have options for CFPs. So if you're not in the undergrad financial planning program, we've got an option to get your CFP certification in the Masters. You heard a shout out for the CFA. If you like the idea of focusing on investments and portfolios, that's also an option in the MFPA. And if you're saying, hey, I want to continue on, I love this idea, but I don't feel like I've really got the knowledge base that I need, we have options in advanced financial planning in the master's program. So if you're already in financial planning, you're loving it, you want to continue on, we've got a class, for example, all the things that we talked about today, we spent a whole semester in our Planning for Business Owners class talking about how to be a business owner, how to serve business owners, how to wear that hat as you're starting your own firm. So just if you're interested in the MFPA, feel free to give me a shout out, and we're happy to chat.
Okay, thanks. One last round of applause for our panelists for coming. Okay, feel free to network a little bit afterwards, and we also have some treats over here for those who are in person. Thanks for coming.
Did you want a photo?